So, what are some tips to dealing with a poor race? Because, historically in the marathon, I mean, the marathon is hard because you can only do one every 6 months.
I know,
and so
that is hard.
Then, you end up like, even if, let's say you end up doing, I don't know, out of like you get one good one out of 4. I mean, for a normal race, that wouldn't be a bad average. It means that every 2 months you have a good race, which is pretty good. Like, I'll take that. But in the marathon, it means like that could be like 2, 3, 4 years. I don't know. Any tips with dealing with that? I've always, I don't remember who told me this, but someone told me in the past that I can be disappointed. Maybe I read it in one of the books we read, but I'm allowed to be disappointed, but I have to put a time limit on it. So that's kind of been my strategy.
I might have told you that.
No, but I did it before I was part of our running club. Like it's been kind of, that's like the one thing that I've always sort of known is that you're allowed to cry after your race, 100%. But like you shouldn't cry for a month. Like you've got to put a limit on it.
Was it you get a 1 week pity party?
Yes.
After
that was like last marathon. I had 1 week pity party. I was allowed 1 week. Alan said it was okay. He let me cry on his shoulder after the race.
Yeah, no, you definitely, because it is annoying. You put a lot of work in. So I think it's not like just ignore that. That's so true. I think though, you do get a lot out of it, so even like that, if the marathon didn't go well, you need also to see like some positives. Like, isn't it great to be like fit and healthy, but also like through running, okay, the marathon didn't go well, but you had some really good training built up to that. So, okay, you can't do another marathon, but you have a really good aerobic base now. Let your body recover for like 2 weeks, build into maybe like some 10K type training, add that little bit of like speed, and that'll come up to the second point, which we'll talk about. Don't overdo it. Let the body absorb the training. Maybe it just was a bit overcooked. Let the body absorb, and you could be running PBs over 10K and talking about, I had a terrible marathon, but I actually, there's a lot of positives that can come even in negative races. It's like, or even if it's like, look, I learned how to hurt there because halfway through it was terrible, but I kept going and I finished, which is like, that's great, because there's going to be a time where you're going to feel good at halfway and you're going to have to kind of push, but the time's going to be way better. So I think there is things to like, there's always some good in a race that you can, if you were like, allow yourself to feel bad about the race, but also think, okay, I feel crap because that performance didn't go, but there are 1 or 2 things here that went well. The second thing is so important, and this happened to a guy, I won't say his name, but very elite runner here. I've heard not say anymore because I'll give it away who it is. People listen to this. I don't think they'll listen to this on this side here, but I'll be putting it out into my group, so maybe he will. He had a bad race, but he was in good shape, and then in the training in the week he needed to prove he was in good shape, so then he ran ridiculously hard for like an 800 meters. He ran a really fast time, and then the next race he ran poor again. And I see that so often. People, when you run well, you're in good shape, so you don't prove it, so you actually pull back the training. You're like, oh, I'm in good shape now, I don't need to do any more. You're a bit more relaxed. You're probably like going a bit more conservatively in training because you're like, look, I've just run well there's no point overdoing it, and then that allows you to run well again the next week or the next time you're out. Where if you run poorly out of frustration a lot of times, and to prove that you're in better shape, you run hard. Like maybe you're meant to have an easy long run, say after a 5K or 10K, and you run it really hard, and then you're more in the hole. So even if you run poorly, you need to treat it like you ran well. And I know it's hard, you can be upset, but you need to be objective. Like, okay, if I ran well, even if it's a case of like, say if Alan's run well and Liz hasn't, ask Alan, like, what are you doing? Like, force yourself to go easier. Because when you run well, you go easy because you're not looking for anything. And when you run poorly, you tend to prove you're either in good shape or to prove that you're not like mentally weak, you overdo it. So, I think taking your rests and thinking, what would I do if I did well? Well, I might take an easy time and then build back into it. And all of a sudden, those 5K or 10K, if you had a marathon, you'll do quite well. If there's like prolonged, say if you had like several poor marathons, there could be something wrong in your training. Everyone, like there's some great coaches who for some runners doesn't work great, and then they go to someone else and works great, and then that other coach might have this guy that it doesn't go well, and he goes to coach A and he flies. It's good sometimes to get a second opinion on things if it's a thing that's been going for a while. And sometimes it can be just to say, yeah, look, you're doing the right things. Like say with a marathon, that does happen. things have to be right on the day. It's like just this one crescendo to a day.
Yeah, I think marathon for me is a bit of a weak spot because, like, you know, I had another coach before, and it was the same. Like, I was with him for a long time, and my other distances, they improved, and my marathon, it was like so stagnant. And then, well, I switched teams to Alan's, the same one as Alan is running with, and so I did their training, and again, it's like hit or miss, you know, a little bit. Yeah. And now we're following a program. This is like the third marathon. I think we're following the program in the Advanced Marathon book, but we've been putting different spins on it each time. And this year, the spin is more like, okay, let's train at the marathon pace that we think we're at and not the marathon pace we want to be at. So we've kind of taken a bit of a, like, I guess, you know, when you were talking about those paces earlier, that's exactly what we're doing. So yeah, marathon, it's a valid point. Like sometimes like one coach's philosophy just doesn't work for you. But in this case, it's like, well, if you take the Advanced Marathon book written by Pete Fitzinger, like that's a coach as well. So like I've had like 3 coaches now for the marathon, and like I just don't do well in the marathon. Like,
but it could be as well. Like, to be fair, it could be that you're more of a 5K, 10K runner. Like if you did that in track, and like that's the way I am. Like I ran say 49 minutes for 10 miles, but we're at the limit of where I'll go. You know, so I can talk about wanting to do well for a marathon, but it's like that's not
why you run.
I'm not good at that. Do you know what? I'm built more for like 1500s, 5Ks. I can get away with a good 10K. I can kind of get away with a good 10 mile, but it's going to be really hit and miss. And if we go above that, it's going to be more bad days than good days. So it could be a thing of, okay, maybe do one marathon in the year and then have a nice like 5K, 10K season. Yeah. And then, as I said, if you ever, maybe after this marathon, if you want to try a different way, I do like lactic testing. We can try look for someone in Montreal, and I can work it out, and I give you like free training to try. I'd love to see how you get on with it.
That would be very cool. That's another avenue. However, by the time we get to October, you will have the sub 3 hour marathon, and this will all be an academic conversation.
Exactly. Even then, you might want to try something different. And then, as I said, look, if poor performance persists, get your bloods checked. If it is something that you're feeling really run down. And then lastly, just know, like, poor performances are part of the course. There is a good line, like, don't let the successes go to your head and the losses go to your heart. Like, that is running. You know, I've had... That's
really nice.
Yeah, like, even this year, I've had some really good, like, won a lot of races on this kind of national road racing scene. So a load of people are saying, oh, God, well done. You've done great this year, haven't you? I know currently... I've gone onto the track and I've ran terribly. Like, I've gone to Belfast, which is the other, so I've driven like 5 hours twice, like in the space of 3 or 4 weeks, thinking I'm going to run really well, and ran terribly. So it's just the way it goes. You know, you have the ups and you have the downs, unfortunately.
Also, I think there's a mentality and there's a internal dialogue approach as well, because you can do a run that doesn't meet your A goal and you go, that was a poor run. Actually, maybe it wasn't. If you put it back into a different context, maybe it was a good run. It just wasn't as good as you would have dreamed. You know, maybe it's a B. Exactly. Maybe it's not an A++++, but it's an A+. You know, it's not a D run. It's an A+ run.
I think that's so, and you get that a lot when it's round numbers. So say if Lids runs like 301 or someone runs 401, they're like not, or 405, but if it's like a PB, or maybe you have a very good PB as it is, and you get within, like, say even for a 10K, you get within like a minute of that. It's like, well, that's still a good run. You're getting close to that shape. Or as you said, maybe it's like I'm getting very consistent at this same pace, and that kind of lends itself to a big breakthrough in the future. So yeah, that's so true, Alan, the way you look at it.
I know I would be very disappointed if I got 3 hours and 0.1 seconds. That'd be very disappointing.
before I ran 13:58, I ran like 14:00.12.
Oh,
like, oh Jesus! Yeah.
God, slit your wrists.
I know. It's just like, and again, it was like that. It was a big PB, and it was